साधकेन प्रदातव्यं गुरु संतोषकारकं गुरोराराधनं कार्यं स्वजीवित्वं निवेदये कर्मणा मनसा वाचा नित्यमाराधयेद् गुरुं दीर्घदण्डं नमस्कृत्य निर्लज्जो गुरुसन्निधौ शरीरमिन्द्रियाणां प्राणं सद्गुरुभ्यो निवेदयेत् आत्मादारादिकं सर्वं सद्गुरुभ्यो निवेदयेत् क्रमीकीटा भस्मविष्टा दुर्गन्धमलमूत्रकं श्लेष्मरक्तं त्वचा मांसं स्वयं येन
You know that there's this kind of extra step.
Right.
And it's not such a big deal.
Right, I think I would just bring that if you're tired, bring it back.
But we're very generous with offering your house.
I just had my mom much more than I do, so.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
Yes,
new
that's
subject,
it.
next field.
Yeah.
So how's Sophia? Working? No. Boyfriend working?
A little bit. But it's like, totally get annoyed when you see them. It's annoying to see them. You know?
What do they do all day?
Not a lot. I think because they spend so much time with other people, they don't realize that they're so long.
I don't know. That seems.
It becomes more normal.
Right, yeah. And they probably know other people like themselves that do the same thing.
Sorry?
Probably know other people like themselves that are doing the same thing.
So it's kind of a matinee as the afternoon. Yeah, no, I thought it was going to be 2:30. I think it's fine. Whatever. Let's do it. It's so great.
1, 2, 3. Good morning, everyone. Here we are, friends on the internet. So let's do what we always do. We have a little group today. We'll close our eyes for about 2 minutes. And we'll extend to each other. Extend to our friend Chakapani Olau and his family. Extend to each other. We had that puja on Friday, which was really great, Mahapatra, and it's now online. It was really very wonderful invoking of the energy, invoking of awareness, invoking of the archetype as Shiva, pure awareness. Let's see. Next week I'm going to have a person come here and talk about 10 minutes who has an app, okay? It's a very good app. It's a simple app. And it's an app for podcasts, okay? And I think some of you guys, like with Tom and others, if you want to do podcasting, you with me? It's very simple, very efficient, very smart, inexpensive. But some of you guys might want to consider this, okay? An app. for your thing. Probably will come in the beginning. She'll talk about 10 minutes just to do that. Okay. Cool. There's also a book just came out called Everything is Light. Like Mr. Ma is now a Qigong light. Huh? The whole thing was on light. Huh? And this is by Keith Dowman, and it's from the Tantra, the Circle of Total Illumination. And in Dzogchen, the early Dzogchen, again, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th centuries, where you had this, where appearances are really valued as actuality, huh? Or as it says in this great text, if I can find it. Seven, sort of prepared today. In this Vajra song of Chanko Rinpoche, I was going to play it, but I couldn't find it this morning. But he goes and says, the melody of timeless awareness, utter lucidity, free of elaboration, this web of unceasing magic, the manifestation of union, the Conjunction. And sovereign lord of all the mandalas, the lake-born Vajra, referring to Guru Rinpoche as the primordial guru, that manifests everything and anything. Grant us the single blessing to realize that all appearances are the Dharmakaya. And so this text, and this is by Keith Dowman, and it's interesting, this is this particular text is like supposed to be the summation of Dzogchen. But there are always summations of Dzogchen, but as the light. And Keith came here, one of the first people came here many, many years ago. And at that time we were having scholars come, and he came. He's quite a character, and he wouldn't leave. Some of us remember that. He just kept talking, he would not leave. So he's a very, shall we say, he's his own creation. He's his own thing. And so eventually I left. People have to leave. Were you here for that case? Yeah. That's one of the...
In the front smoking.
Smoking, yeah. He's a character. He's one of the great Dzogchen writers and his own mastery. And maybe we'll have him come sometime again. But this is an exquisite book. And it really picks up our own frame a lot about as the light, Mr. Ma's Qigong is now simply the light, And great. There's this other book I've mentioned to you guys by this yogi Sarakandro, who married one of Dujum Lingpa's guys, great yogi, and it's very much on the Tantra and what that is. It is called Love and Liberation. And I've mentioned it before to you. And then also, it's great. We're with Chakapati. There was a lot of synchronicity. We arrived in California, and he's in the hospital. We go and we spend a lot of time with him there. And then he died Saturday morning, about 3 o'clock. And that particular time, talking to Mahapatra and Peter, it's like, if you have to go, that's the 3 weeks to go. Because in that transitional period, there's most of the energy is pulling you along, pulling you as you leave this dimension of gravity, and you go into the other dimensions that these 3 weeks are. And talking to his wife Diane, who's quite a character, and she was saying he was really wanting to stay, and then he's in this, he starts like rethinking it, and then he comes into this 3 weeks when it's supposed to be the time, but where the sun and the moon or whatever it is, and the outer planets and the outer than that, and then he goes into the state of rest for a few days, and he leaves. And it's always not only illuminating and fun, but hanging out with him over these years, and Peter and Sharon and I, half the fun at times is sitting simply talking about the yogis we've known or people like that, and how their charts unfold into what they're teaching. It's so interesting how it's not a mental thing, you know, and where our mind is this big and their psyche that big, and the cosmological unfolding is huge, huh? And how this turns, and for Chakapani, in his own chart, in the house of the guru, where the guru is, you with me? And again, the guru is not a person, but the guru does manifest in circumstances and appearances in our life as our own awareness, and as people and dogs and all. That there's different houses where the guru is. So often it's the 9th house, and then his is like in friendship, Dhamma. So when I was with teachers, they were always friends, huh? And being with him as a teacher was a friend. So the modality is friendship, huh? And so it was Baba, Bhagavan Nityananda, or many others. There's always this relation of friendship, and it's both ways, both to students and to the teachers, where friendship is the medium, companionship is the medium. And that's really cool. Some people may have that house in a house of, say, the 6th house. And all this stuff, I don't know astrology, but like it could be pets. Your pet is the guru. Are you with me? And servants, perhaps a servant or someone that's helping you is the guru, guy that cuts the grass, like the women. Or it could be also illness is the form of the guru. Are you with me? Where this energy comes through you in a very specific way. So my house is like that also. The 9th is the house also of friendship. So most of these people, it's in friendship, and that's how I understand the guru is a friend, not a patriarch, you know, friendship. Dhamma, friendship. And then also with friendship, it always has a lot of aspects about it, but friendship really allows us to have equal vision, equality consciousness. And I like that, because I really feel people's friendship with each other here, and that there's friendship. Huh? Friendship is companionship. Are you with me? And companionship is a nice way to be. It's not asymmetrical. Not asymmetrical. So, Skip, would you read one or two of those, just the beginning, the titles? There's another text that we mentioned last week, right? And this is a text by Wilkerson, who I may also have come here. That's the one, yes. Oh, that's another one, yes, by him, yes. Would you read those, please?
Just the titles of it?
You showed me the titles of those two things, yes. No, the title inside, you showed them?
Yeah, so it's the Royal Tantra on the Brilliant Diffusion of Majestic Space.
Wow. Say that one more time.
The Royal Tantra on the diffusion of majestic space.
Yes. These are the original 17 tantras, okay? And this person, who may have come here, is he's translated all these original tantras from the 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th centuries, and it's really very much the frame we operate more of. It's less Buddhist in a certain way. It's Dzogchen without being Buddhist necessarily. It came out of Tibet. By Buddhist, I mean Indian Buddhism, which looks as appearances, and all this is simply illusion. Yes, would you read that?
So one section is on teaching that we have received the empowerment from the beginning.
It's given. It's given as you manifest. That is the givenness of the empowerment is your own manifestation in this dimension.
teachings on the specific of empowerment, which is basically that we self-empower.
Self-empowerments. Great. Welcome. Now I think maybe it's going to be putting up in the next couple of weeks, not just yet. Everybody has their papers in. We'll put that up on that volume up. Volume 8?
That's
Volume 9, called The Realm of Experience. Huh? So, we really wish, if you haven't done it, to articulate your experience. So we'll do that. Then those who did do that, if you want, I urge you to consider signing up on Academia EDU, okay? Because then you have a publication. So you need a publication to get an Academia. So sign up if you want to put your stuff up, and you can put it on Academic EDU, and then it's easy, and then you have different people coming to read your stuff. Yeah. If you want. There's also a form that there's these things where you put your interests, it's psychoanalysis, healing, and I put one on called Existential Dzogchen, and then if you guys would sign up with that one. I like the title Existential Dzogchen. I like it being freed from Buddhism, free from it. It doesn't belong to any culture, doesn't belong to any religion, and you'll find it in all cultures, but it has different names. Huh? But I like the word existential Dzogchen. So you want to think about doing that if you want, So here we are.
Hey, Rudy.
Yeah.
It's Jan online
Hi, Jan.
now. Hi. Could someone please adjust the camera? All we can see is sort of the top part.
Yeah, I was just.
Oh, thanks. Great. There we are. Good. Good to see you guys. Hi, everybody. Who's in the shadows there? There's someone in the shadows. Who's that?
Colleen.
Oh, hi, Colleen. Welcome.
You have to put it down again, Tom.
Dan, Hayden.
No, I mean.
Oh, there's Kathy.
Yeah.
Ollie.
Hi, everybody.
That Holly.
Ollie.
Okay, don't know who that is. Okay, here we are. So, I did not record this talk last week, so I'm going to give it over again, sort of, okay? If I remember it. All depends on the inspiration, which I'm not really doing today, but salud.
Did Mary Al have her baby?
Not yet. Not yet.
Nope, she's there.
Now, what'd you say? What'd you say?
Not yet.
We're waiting. Okay, we're gonna extend you. We're gonna extend you.
The birthing energy.
Yes. Does the baby like the energy?
She does. She loves it.
She loves
I
it.
think she's too happy.
So let's do this very gently. Very gently. We're gonna extend her. We're gonna extend to the baby. Okay. What's the baby's? What's her name again?
Isla. Her due date was yesterday.
Oh wow. I get anxious. Oh, men get anxious around this
Did
moment.
she say Lila?
Lila, right?
Lila.
So we're going to extend to the mom, the baby, and the grandmom right now. Very super gently, like a welcoming yes. And the planets are actually really great. The same thing with exiting, the same thing with entering, right? There's always this double. So going out is a good time, and coming in is a good time also, which is really cool, okay? And you're past that other period, right? So now you're into the good period, which is fantastical. We'll focus, and we'll send this. And we're going to do it through the heart drops of the Dharmakaya. We'll extend to the house. And following Yangtang Rinpoche's advice, we'll extend to the baby's past. And to the baby in her present moment. And to the baby's future. From the place of timeless awareness. Thank you. You guys doing okay?
Yes, thank you so much. She started moving a lot when y'all were doing that.
Cool, 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 cool. You look great, hon. You look really luminous. You look.
Thanks. I feel good, unfortunately.
Great.
When I start feeling bad, I think that would be a good
I guess a good sign.
No, you don't have to feel bad.
Thank you, hon. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So here we are. Transitional Space. Donald Winnicott. The opening of the experiential realm beyond the mind. The realm of clinical and spiritual potentiality, huh? These are things that he actually wrote about as he brought the anima dimension into psychoanalysis. And he was a very radical, existential psychoanalytic. And he brought in the understanding that there's our mind. It's really good to have one. It's called our ego. And actually to have an ego is really good. If you don't have an ego, you're sort of like a amoeba. So you want to have an ego, right? A mind that thinks and feels and senses and imagines, has a fantasy, and that all enters into transitional space, that opening of transitional space. It does become the power of imagination that sees into phenomena. And in today's clinical culture, especially in psychology, and knowing cognitive psychology is useful, it really, really is, but it's not the whole thing, huh? So it's like cognitions tampering with cognitions, huh? Love is a digital moment, huh? In the cognitive realm, information. So Winnicott started taking psychoanalytic thinking and integrating ontology, existential ontology, being, huh? And his creative understanding, I'm going to go a little slower today than I did last time, was our capacity, and all you guys know this, you're just hearing it one more time from another way. But, and that is primarily, as though you know it, is to have the motivation to take the steps to continuously enter into awareness. Huh? So the creative understanding, what do you call it? Transitional awareness, or transitional relatedness, or transitional space. And as you read him, or as I read him, then by having the background in Dzogchen, and I knew him first, but as I learned Dzogchen and Shaivism and that, then his work opened up even more. And I began hearing his words like potential space. Without the understanding, potential space meant this much as it opens up. So it starts opening up. And so a person can be really like him, a genius, but sometimes you need a background to understand what he's really. And he was often not very liked in psychoanalysis. Like I went to the New York Psychoanalytic Institute, and Michael Egan was there to hearing him. He was a friend of mine, and he gives this talk, and he's so ridiculed and all. He goes back to this room and has a heart attack, you know. So the whole issue, and even in a place like the Washington Psychoanalytic Institute now, I've seen some people from that, and the whole Winnicottian transitional space is much more, not like it was in the 70s and things like that, much more informational based. So to say this another way, so this, and he intertwines both our personal, our personal psychology and this innermost experience, our own existential ontology. Ontology simply is a fancy word for being. We have a psychology, and yet there's a knowingness of being itself. Being is not a dead thing. It is knowingness. Huh? Transitional knowingness intertwines both our mind and primordial awareness. Huh? Our field of awareness knows the field of being, since awareness itself is the field of being. Huh? So this is not focused attention of the mind we're talking about. A lot of times people think awareness is focusing attention of the mind alone. Not at all. Transitional awareness intertwines both our mind and psyche. So you're going to see this duality, mind and psyche, mind and awareness, psychology and being. Yeah. And for many traditions, they're not at all related. But in Dzogchen, Shaivism, phenomenology, Winnicott, these are related experiences, okay? So Donald Winnicott's phenomenological understanding of the self, he radicalizes that understanding of the self. So our sense of self from being a representational picture. So for many in psychoanalytic thinking, the self is a picture or a schema. You know, my picture of myself isn't too good. I can change my little picture. I would be a better person. You with me? Or my cognitive affective schema. And all these words have a usage at times. These are useful words at other times, and other times they lose their usefulness. Language is a very fluid thing. What is useful in one situation is a distraction in another. Unless you're a believer, a dogmatic believer, then you have security in fixatedness. As one Dzogchen master would say, forget his name, in Dzogchen, fixation is the dilemma. Fixated mind. So there's a shift from cognitive affective schemas or a synthesis of disparate parts. Myself is made up of all these parts. There's a truth to that. But actually he makes this shift to this fluid sense of self as direct, felt sense of ongoing continuity of being. What? Myself is the ongoing continuity of being, permeating me in time and space, and there's my mind and body, and there's this beingness, ongoing continuity. And remarkably, he looked at developmental psychology this way. When the baby has ongoing continuity of being, that baby can go here and there in this world. Until the baby has ongoing continuity of being, it is very hard to differentiate and separate. Because when you differentiate too early or thrown out too early, then you don't have the sense of ongoing continuity of being. And that is agony. That's agony. That's agony. Say yes if this is making sense. So, our knowingness through the medium of awareness, so this knowingness through the medium of awareness opens us up for the direct knowingness of the experience of being. So there's a certain way from the very beginning this awareness is there, and I experience it in my union with the mom, and her union with me as the baby opens us up, both up to that transitional space, It opens it up, and in that union, the field of being arises, So the initial experience of duality and non-duality, it takes place in the very beginning of our life. That's why in the high yogas, the guru is the first mother. The guru is the first mother. So our liminal, and it's a liminal state, this liminal transitional awareness field opens for us this immediate, ongoing experience of being. So when I'm in my mind alone, I would not necessarily experience ongoing continuity of being. I can be in a world of facticity. So this experience of being is being within our very own sense of self, and being within our relational world. So the dimension of being opens up. And we can feel this at times. Sometimes we're in one state of mind alone, and then I will see Tom quite different if I'm in my mind alone. I can like him, I can dislike him, but there's a facticity about it. And there's definitely duality in a very, I would say, hard way. Hard way. And many people never leave that place. So the experience of being is being within our very own self and being within our very own relational world. So being is within myself, and actually if things are moving, then being is in the relational world. It is through a relationship the door opens. Through this being itself is manifest, into this being. And then through this connection, being is manifested in both of us. And paradoxically, there's one more step. It's called the third reduction. Then through that, you go into being itself as being. This is the essence of phenomenology. Winnicott wasn't a formal phenomenologist, but his track reflected phenomenology. This making sense? Now,
May I ask a question?
not right now. Okay, because if I will ask it later, because if I get off, then I may lose. I'm losing my rap, and then I'm gone. I'm trying to do that. So, ordinary person. All this has to do with being an ordinary person. This is not supernatural. It's not exceptional. It is being human. This is human. We, as most ordinary people, we can actually experience, we all do here, we experience the unfolding movement of the experiencing of being within our own self, as our own self, and simultaneously as the unfolding experience of our own being as the beingness of being, which is being itself of the world. So as I enter into this, I leave my mind, I suspend my mind a little bit, I enter into this awareness of my mind. I'm still in my mind. I'm beginning to access a little bit in the background this awareness, but I'm in my mind. I haven't left my mind yet. That doesn't mean I'm lost, but I am not in the field and everything that opens up. Then I pause, or something happens, and I leave becoming aware of my mind, and I become aware of awareness itself. And as I sustain being in awareness itself, then awareness begins to manifest itself to me. Being begins to manifest itself within me and through me and around me. As we experience the being of our world, we can simultaneously experience the luminosity of being in and through the world itself. Being itself is not a being. This is why the language is a little tricky. Capital B-E-I-N-G is not a being. Though being is always manifesting beings, and always manifesting being in beings as beings. But being is pure no-thingness. It's pure. That's why when you and I enter and experience awareness, it's always pure. It is always being. So even the so-called pure vision is experiencing the pureness of being in our own self. And then, if I can feel that in my own self, I can then feel it in you. I can feel that purity of being in you. Whether, even if my mind is fucked up, or your mind is fucked up, I can feel that purity of being. And that is intrinsically healing and intrinsically liberating. I just have to remain in it more often than not. So the experiencing of being, of our own being, opens for us the experience of being itself. Isn't that amazing? If I can experience the feeling of being in my own self, it opens up the experience of being in itself. Being itself is not a being. But this is also saying, if I can experience the beingness of being in my own self and feel being, I will start to experience manifestation. I will start to feel manifestation taking place in me, and I will actually start to experience manifestation taking place around me, right? I will feel the manifestation of phenomena. I will feel the manifestation of time. I will feel manifestation within myself. I think it's a bit esoteric, isn't it? So being manifest and brings forth being in and as all beings. And Winnicott understands that our personal psychological anxiety and our veiled ontological anxiety or ontological insecurity, to use R.D. Laing's language, who was in the basement of Tavistock. So in Tavistock during this time, the brilliant R.D. Laing was writing The Divided Self, where he started opening up, integrating it in his own way, ontological anxiety as part of. That's where they really started to understand borderline, so-called borderline people, which we all have existentially. There's no one here who does not have borderline dimensions, because it's existential. You with me? And then Winnicott's on another floor, Bjorn's on another floor, and the attachment man, John, is on another floor. So you talk about a place of intense thought. They all didn't agree with each other. They fought each other. They hated each other. But that's the way creativity is. Huh? Hate is inspiring, you know, if you're not too sensitive. So the experience of the oblivion of being is agony. The experience of the oblivion of being is agony. And the oblivion of absence of being is really the agony of annihilation and the agony of meaningless lifelessness. You with me? Meaningless lifelessness. Non-being is felt as meaningless lifelessness. And so there's no creativity and and nothing's manifesting. You live in dead space, deadness. One of the masters of interpreting Winnicott is Michael Eigen. And I'm hoping as we move along, because things are changing here, that we'll start not having lamas come here anymore. No need to. We have a lot of transmissions. But I'd like to start having more of these type of people come, like Michael Egan, if we want to. And we're willing to pay for it. Okay. There's always a little blood, right? So entering transitional awareness. Everybody awake? You have to think. Thinking is part of this. Thinking is being in awareness and having awareness infuse your mind. And that's why in the Gudaba Tantra, the first really great Tantra, the 8th century Tantra, bring your mind into your heart. And then you have a traditions called the mind-heart traditions, whether it's like in Yen Shin Qigong, mind-heart tradition, huh? Kashmir Shaivism, Hridayam, mind-heart, the integration of mind and heart. Overcoming the dissociation of mind from awareness. What happens as we grow up, right?
Mm.
Say yes if this is making sense,
Yes.
okay? Now, there's no one way of entering into transitional space of awareness. Suffering, exhaustion. Exhaustion is one way. In fact, one of the Dzogchen ways in the Yeshe Lama is you keep running unto exhaustion. You work unto exhaustion. You scream, you act like a nut, you do all sorts of things, you run around naked, keep going till you're exhausted and you collapse, and then it opens up. Okay. Another way is play, right? Playing, yeah. Mm-hmm. Another way is transmission from one to another, right? So, so more often than not, a person may be located in their mind alone, right? A person may be located in a particular function of mind, thinking. A person may, when you and I shift into obsessional thought function, we're in mind alone, and it's going over and over again to solve something it can never solve. So when you and I go into obsessional states, you're in an impossible situation. And it's redundancy goes around and around. Or memory. Sometimes we're located in memory alone. For some of it's good old memory. Everything is the past. Or terrible memory, traumatic memory all the time. We can't free ourselves from the memory. Or imagination, huh? Or feeling. So being located in mind is mind. So as we're going through this, you really are taking the resolve, huh, of really practicing this. It's a practice. It is a praxis, Praxis. If you're in daydreaming, you're in infancy. If you're walking around daydreaming, you are in infancy, daydreaming, waiting for a better day. So you're trying to really, this is the most simple path. It's totally natural. It doesn't depend on mental practices, really. It makes fun of them. It disregards them. It says do them. They are useful, Being located in mind is mind, the person makes a shift. Do you and I know how to make that shift yet?
Yes.
Do you know how to shift from being in your mind? You're not even aware of your mind then. You're just in your mind. And also you want to have the practice of seeing people, whether they're in their mind or not. Because we learn from everyone's the guru. So you learn, is Tom in his mind or not? Or is it awareness and it's infusing his mind right now? They're in union. Mind, awareness, and union. That's the mysterious Konjunktio. But Jung was preoccupied with. Why? Because mind knows beings. Mind knows things. Mind knows details. Mind knows very subtle things. Mind knows gross things. Mind knows time. Awareness doesn't know beings. If I'm in pure awareness, there's no one here. A lot of yogis spend their time that way. No one here. Thank you, Jesus. Okay? No one here. Except it's useful. But perhaps in another time, in another place, when people would sit on big sticks out in the desert, huh? Called the desert fathers. You with me? May not be so useful nowadays. But it all depends on what you want to do. Mind knows duality. The mind knows me and you. That's a really good thing. I'm glad I'm a me, and I'm glad you're a you. It only knows duality. And awareness only knows non-duality. Awareness knows being. That's what awareness knows. Now, I can know being. However, that is why, first of all, I have to suspend my mind a little bit. See you later. And enter into awareness. And embody this awareness and the qualities. And then as I do that, I have to start. It's equally important to integrate my mind into my body and into awareness. Then time and timelessness come together for me. I can be in timelessness and time. And that's the power of invocation opens up for me at that moment. Because then I can be in the different dimensions of Nirmanakaya, ordinary life world. And then I can be in the dimension of the archetypal, like Mahapacha was really invoking the archetypical dimension here that day. Huh? We have the big fire alarm, I'm running out, and he's in this totally devotional state of the Sambhogakaya. You know what I mean? And then there's also Dharmakaya, pure potentiality. And so as we go, we want to learn how to tune ourselves to these different dimensions of our own being, which is the being we're in. Now, let me go a little slower then. So the person makes a shift and becomes aware of their mind. So even becoming aware of my mind is quite a thing. Do you know when you became aware of your mind? I remember I became aware of my mind. And then I realized there was a space between me and my mind. Between me and thinking, there's a space. Between me and my feelings. There's a space between me and mind. Now at that moment I was in awareness, but I didn't know it. I only knew that space. That's an amazing moment. It's an amazing moment. It's going back to that moment alone. It's fantastic. Awesome. And then I start to shift and become aware of the knower of that mind. And as I become aware of the knower, I enter knowingness itself. Being aware of the knower has a little bit of a witness consciousness to it. And then I shift and I become aware of knowingness itself. That's what awareness is. I'm now awareness of, and that moment I'm in transitional space. I'm in this transitional intermediate area between time and timelessness, between here and Sambhogic archetypal realm. Artists touch this. Artists live in the transitional world, right? Artists. That's why it's so compelling. And then I'm also aware of potential space, potentiality. What Winnicott would talk about. This is where we're going. I hope I'm not going too slow. I know you know this, but we're reviewing it. So this is an amazing moment to experience that I'm not my mind. I'm not my mind. I have thoughts. I have feelings. Yes, sir.
This might be my accountant's mind.
Okay.
The notion of between
In between.
or transition,
Yes.
that kind of says that I'm in neither.
Or I'm in both.
My sense is both.
I'm in both. Actually,
Transition doesn't mean that to me.
okay. Well, think about yourself crossing a puddle and being on both sides at the same time. You're on.
But the words throw me.
Okay, that's fair enough. But think of yourself, I'm both in time and timelessness. I'm both in my mind and I'm in being at the same time. I'm both seeing you and I'm experiencing indivisibleness between myself and you. This way and even around this. It's a bridge. It's both simultaneous at the same time. And you can, and so the space of knowingness is between awareness and their mind. And if you can know these steps, then you'll have greater expertise. If you're just wishing for good luck every time, okay, help me out, please, in the name of heaven, save me. It works up to a point, but after a while it really gets old. You know what I mean? This is called skillful means. You want a skill where you can make these steps. Say yes if you're following this,
Yes.
okay? Now, so the person is now aware of their mind. So to experience that we're not our mind is really great. To get to this is a really good thing because a lot of people dissociate at this point. Dissociation is not transcendent. There's a whole nother realm of dissociation going into states, transcendental states. This is not a transcendental thing. Transcendental is good if you like that sort of thing. Transcendental is a very large part of philosophy. You with me? Phenomenology was an attempt to end transcendental thinking. It was to cut through Descartes, to cut through Kant, to cut through that form of spirituality. The same thing with this form of Dzogchen. You with me? Where rather than being disembodied, rather than being out there, it shifted from transcendentalness to eminence, to embodiment, to the body of this realm. Say yes if you understand that, okay? And they run parallel, but you want to know the difference to know what side of the puddle you want to be on, okay? And you can be both. Sometimes it's really good to be both, because unless you be both, you don't know options. So a lot of traditions, certain forms of Vedic, certain forms of Buddhism, or earlier forms, are transcendental things. Not this, and not this either. You with me? And people, and you start going, and even the archetypal dimension, which we talk about, and I've said all this before, but maybe we're hearing, even the archetypes, I can look at the archetypes as transcendental, and I'm going to dissociate as I relate to those. Or they're arising through me as me. A-okay? Now, let's continue here. And that's how I look at the body and how I feel about being here is all influenced by these understandings, not belief. So the person is now aware of their mind. This is an amazing moment. And to experience that we're not our mind. And next, from within this awareness of mind, a person, ordinary person, and you don't have to know all this philosophy to do this, happens for people naturally. An ordinary person makes another shift in which they become aware no longer of their mind, but they become aware of their awareness itself. And I do think around experiences like birth, these experiences happen very powerfully and very naturally. There's these pulls, and so at this moment, the person experiences awareness as their own felt sense. And if you look at some geniuses like Eugene Gendlin's work also, Eugene Gendlin, with not as much gobbledygook as I'm going through here, teaches people how to shift from being in their mind, without using that words, into the felt sense of the direct experience of the opening of the field of being, of embodiment itself. Now we continue on a little bit more. And this becoming aware of awareness is transitional awareness. And sometimes when you're in transition, you can initially feel neither here nor there. You can. It's a little fuzzy, right? You ever have that? Oh, am I here? And you can feel the twirls as the energy opens up and vortexes, and you can feel like Topsy. You know, Topsy belonged. Topsy was a ghost in a movie, Topsy. But you don't know whether you're here or there. And then as you get grounded in transitional awareness and you start embodying it, then it becomes more stable. So through the suspension, so one of another ways of transitional awareness is the way of phenomenology. So what I'm pointing to here is that Dzogchen, Shaivism, phenomenology, Winnicott are all playing different words in the same field. Hope I'm not boring you, okay? So the person is free. So when we suspend our mind, you want to learn to suspend your mind. And then we suspend also the judgmentalness of mind. The most important is judgmentalness. And without suspending judgmentalness, that if you have the divine curse of a critical mind, you with me? You have to sacrifice. That's the pound of flesh. Abraham was asked to sacrifice his only son. That's a little intense, right? A little weird, frankly. Okay, no offense, you know. Other lambs, animals. Let me sacrifice Booksy, my favorite. Actually, the sacrifice is your own critical mind for a few moments. That's why the yogis say, get beyond your mind. Get beyond, that's what Tantra, get beyond your mind. Get beyond your mind. Get beyond right and wrong. Oh, beyond right and wrong, shit. Right and wrong's most base we have for most of us. Superego. Superego is the most base. It's saying throw your base away. Get beyond good and evil. Get beyond better and best. And get beyond truth and falsity. So you're suspending judgment. Oh my God, Descartes, suspending judgment. Raise your hands if you can leave your eyes closed. Raise your hands if you think you can suspend judgment. You want to have that down.
Not easy.
Always hard. Not easy and then easy. Always hard. Huh?
You can say the opposite.
Yes, yes.
When you're in the experiential space, it's easy.
Yes, when you're in experiential space, because it's all very state dependent, huh? Because we're working with our own states, huh? And they all have history and archetypal dimensions, okay? So in phenomenology, a person suspends their mind and suspends the function of their mind. And through the suspension of the mind, judgmental of the mind, our awareness is freed, become aware of its own self, and the person is free to gaze. So now I can gaze. It's like being at the beach. I'm gazing at the sky, gazing at the water, gazing at a beautiful face, gazing at a beautiful scene, gazing at a room, gazing at terror, whatever. I'm gazing, and I'm gazing with my whole body, because awareness is permeating my whole body, and I'm experiencing my whole body direct knowingness, and gazing into phenomena and experience directly. So now I'm shifting from mediated knowing through thinking, and now I'm seeing directly. And that, you don't have to be a saint to do this. You don't have to be some kind of big mahuka. You don't. A lot of that is unnecessary mythology. Most professions are preoccupied with their own safety. Psychology now hates all you MA counselors. It just can't stand them because they're doing the same thing they're doing and making the same amount of money. You with me? And yes, you are. Yes, you are. Okay. So the same thing with spirituality. Okay. We mythologize humanness. So,
Not just suspending negative judgment, but also
all judgment.
positive
All
judgment.
judgment, you can't suspend one without the other. Okay? They go together. So the gazing opens us up for the translucidity of appearance and phenomena. That simply means, like this morning in Qigong, or perhaps even now, the light of our inner awareness begins to manifest, perceives, and sees through appearance and sees through phenomena into the luminosity of phenomena, into the light of phenomena. And so even may just means I'm gazing into my own awareness, I gaze into the purity of this awareness. I feel it. I feel this purity. See if we can do that. It's the most simple way to feel the purity of our own awareness. If I can feel this purity in me, I'm freed from superego. I'm freed from guilt. I'm freed from obsessive compulsive. That's why being in awareness itself is intrinsically healing. One more time. Being in awareness itself is intrinsically healing. Being in awareness itself, then that states. And some people work too hard at this point. They have to think they have to do a lot more than they have to do than simply entering into awareness itself. And they experience the purity of awareness in themselves, and only. That's why I think it's really funny at the monastery, where everybody's supposed to experience the purity of the Lama, right? And this is not in defense of anybody, believe me. But you can't experience the purity of anyone unless you experience it in your own self. It's impossible. My mind is not going to see the purity of anything. With awareness infused, I can feel the purity in me, and then I can experience that in others. Huh? It's always funny for some reason. So we'll continue on. So the gaze opens us up. So the very gaze opens us up. If I can gaze at all, if I'm gazing right now, it opens us up. And the translucidity begins to expand. And translucidity, its meaning is not just in me. Translucidity encompasses myself and you. It's a translucent experience with us, within us, and around us. Huh? And at that point, subject-object is disappearing at one level. The translucence is coming like so. Which is like right now, translucentness. So our inner light of awareness perceives through appearance and sees through phenomena into the luminosity of phenomena. And there's that famous Dzogchen statement, light unto phenomena. It means that all phenomena has light, and I'm experiencing that. And it doesn't mean I don't have to deal with the phenomena, but the base is now this awareness. Epoche and reduction. So we're going into a little bit of phenomenology. Phenomenology is always talking about the epoche, and it's always talking about the reduction. It complicates things a lot, okay? So what phenomenology calls the epoche and reduction process goes to this. You know it already. A person shifts from being located in judgmentalness of mind. Some people think the word clinical judgment is really useful. Clinical judgment is not discrimination. Clinical judgment is a judgmental state. You're using evidence. It can be useful in certain sorts of situations, but clinical judgment is not bringing you into the healing realm of awareness. Okay, it does quite the opposite. Sometimes you should visit a psychiatrist. He or she will be using clinical judgment. Are you with me? Some don't. Say yes if you understand what I'm saying. Some of you don't. This is very tricky. You can think you know it, and actually you might not know this. The person then becomes aware of their mind. And this is a form of mindfulness. This is the epoche. So the first epoche is you suspend your mind. All epoche means I suspend my mind. gazing. Muktananda says, always have your mouth open. Sometimes it happens to me. He says, it's like you're being fed. Gazing. And all the gazing exercises, not just the sky, but you gaze. Gazing. Now. So the epiche is a pause. And there's a shift from the person being aware of a mind to becoming aware of the awareness. That is the reduction. Reduction means I'm making a shift. I'm turning in to my awareness. The word reduction means I'm pausing my mind and now I'm becoming aware. Not with my mind. I'm becoming aware of my awareness. That's a reduction right there. And I enter into awareness. There's another reduction where I shift from awareness into I'm experiencing what's being given to me from awareness. There's another shift. That is the third shift. That is the most foundational shift. And that is the great person named Marion who brought this forth in phenomenology. It's also Dzogchen. So I can be in my mind. I'm now in awareness. And in my awareness, I'm integrating my mind, and I'm now in awareness and experiencing a bit of time and timelessness. But I take one more, and there's a shift here where paradoxically I'm shifting to what's manifesting into me from awareness. I'm manifesting, I'm experiencing, I'm gazing into what's being given to me at this moment. It's the most primal state. I'm in awareness. I'm not focusing on my awareness. I'm focusing on what's given to me at this moment. And in theological, I'm experiencing grace. I'm seeing the givenness of divinity. Say yes if you understand this.
It's beautiful.
You touch this a lot. You touch this in your poetry. The givenness of phenomena. That's called the third reduction, you know. And there you are. Now, if you can stay in that, everything really starts getting intense very quickly. And you're not in a transcendented state. You're here and now in humanness, and all this is real. I'm in reality. I'm in the actuality of reality. More real. And it's manifesting, coming into me. You guys doing okay with this over here? You want to gaze with your body. So it's coming. Now as I gaze this way, I start going through steps of saturation. So sometimes I start getting saturated. Oh my God. That saturation is not time to quit. I stretch. That's why there's a stretch this. I stretch. That's why the issue of becoming liberated and freed is a stretchy experience. I'm learning to hold more, embody more, experience more, and I'm also metabolizing this experience, because as I metabolize the phenomena, which is light coming into me, I'm metabolizing that light, and the body of light is now being created in my own body. Luminous flesh, luminous light. Say yes if you understand this. But you have to be able to hold intensity. This is intense. Dzogchen is for people who have the fire element alive. You have to have a little anger for this. If you have no anger, you don't have any fire, you won't be able to do this. You'll be a lake. Are you guys following this, right? Step by step. So by becoming aware of, okay, so all the qualities start to arise. The quality of luminosity, the quality of clarity, the light manifests to us within this experiential knowingness. The energy starts to manifest, and the vitality starts to manifest. Aliveness starts to manifest, and the field is experienced. Some traditions call it the chi or the shakti, tigle. And the quality begins to extend. So as I'm feeling this quality arising in my body, I'm not out my body. This is all in my body. I am not out there in some transcendental state. I may have been in a transcendental state, but I'm giving that up because actually it's not as much fun. It's simply not as much fun. Now, as I start to embody this, the qualities of the field in this dimension of more and more and more for me. Are you with me? So I'm now experiencing the qualities. And I start to feel the expansion of the field. So now I'm in the field. Initially, I'm not in the field. Now I'm in the field. And as I'm in the field, those qualities go beyond my body, huh? And I'm embodying this purposefully. And most of all, I also experience vitality. The cup of blood, in the text, that's the symbol of vitality, huh? So intrinsic in all this is vitalness. The intrinsicness is vitalness. You with me? Life itself is awareness, knowingness, all life, sentience. So now I could be sick, feeling shitty even, but that vitality is still in me. I'm really embodying awareness in me. So yes, if you understand the vitalness, vitality, right? You got this? Now, and there also arises the sense of indivisibleness, oneness. That does happen now. So naturally, I feel oneness. And I feel oneness besides whether I'm liking you or not. I can feel a little connection. We feel a little gooey. Sometimes a little merger. Merger's fun. Merger is not oneness. Merger is not indivisibleness. Certain people like Lama Tartan wouldn't use the word. They want to use the word indivisibleness because they want to honor separateness. Certain forms of non-duality, they don't honor separateness. They don't honor duality. You with me? Duality is a bad thing. Say yes if you follow this. So you want to be able to be in simultaneously both, huh? A lot of infantile states or merger states. And people do think that infantile states are divine states, and they have a bliss to them, but it's truly not duality. Duality and non-duality simultaneously is the empowerment. Now, and the third thing, yes?
It's really hard to talk about non-duality.
It is hard to talk about non-duality, but it's definitely able to speak about if you've integrated your mind in it.
So if the mind is speaking from it, the words don't matter.
If the mind is speaking from it, the words will have power. Because the mind itself is being infused. And as our mind is infused by duality and is in union with duality, that's why they have the male females are in copulation. You with me? And it's symbolizing the masculine, feminine, mind, masculine, the feminine, the anima. What Winnicott brought is the anima dimension into, same thing with Jung. They brought the feminine dimension into this. They went beyond information, went beyond mind.
Yeah.
And so that, and then I forget his name, always Rapa something, 11th century Dzogchen master, great person, brought in that out of the gnosis of my awareness, I begin to experience the gnosis of mind. So there's direct perception of awareness, and more my mind begins to have direct. But none of this is the third eye. There's a third thing which is transcendental, is the third eye. So a lot of psychic stuff arises around the third eye. It's very useful, but don't think that this is not third eye phenomena. It is because there's channels coming into this as a symbol that this awareness and mind is taking place as human beings, as human awareness in this world. Say yes if you understand what I'm saying by it. It's a different phenomena. It doesn't disparage third eye phenomena, but it's not third eye phenomena. Third eye phenomena takes place in all sorts of situations, in transcendental states, and it's very powerful, very useful, but you may not be an embodied person and have strong third eye phenomena. Say yes if you understand this. You want to understand this. These are like little guideposts, turn right, left. Sometimes you have to sacrifice third eye phenomena for a while to enter into embodiment. It's very painful. There's always a pound of flesh. But it's usually something that you... So what also arises is purity. I'm going to pick this up again next week because I'm taking a lot of time. Sorry I've been doing many practices, but you really should be practicing more and holding this with other people. Why? You don't have to just come here and pay $40, right? So the next change is also purity. Purity is not incidental to this. Raise your hands if you think you really know this, that purity is not incidental to this. Raise your hands if you don't know that. The purity of awareness starts to open up. In Dzogchen, the first masters, that's what they felt. They would feel this purity. They would feel the same thing with Swami Mukta. They would feel the purity of this opening up in this very pure, exquisitely pure state. Someone like Yen Shin would talk about purity and say, you have to become 6 years old for Dzogchen to open up, not for Dzogchen, for Qigong to open up for you. Mr. Ma has a very pure quality about him, doesn't it? Totally pure. You with me? So this purity is not incidental. The purity of this awareness opening up in yourself. Kadig or kadag. Sometimes you have to make a hard choice between relentless guilt and the purity of awareness. And as you make this choice, there's a choice here, an existential choice. Because our own will, the Ikta Shakti. The Ikta Shakti means the Shakti, the energy of awareness, the choice of awareness. You start choosing to go beyond the incessant guilt, especially early guilt. You with me? Pre-Oedipal guilt, to use that language. There's Oedipal and pre-Oedipal guilt, the pre-Oedipal guilt. But you will also feel simultaneously the purity of awareness in you. And there will be human beings who are very pure around you. And you can feel that resonance of the purity. Then you align yourself with that purity. A lot of us are afraid of purity because we think we're going to be really simply naive innocence. Anybody afraid? The light has gone out, okay? We're afraid of pure being. We're afraid of the purity because we think we're not going to have aggression or toughness. And then some people teach that. You have to give up aggression. You have to be, as someone said to Muktananda one time, Jesus says, what happens is someone should strike you on the left cheek, you should turn your right cheek or whatever. And Baba says, if someone punches me on my left cheek, I'm going to take them and I'm going to beat the shit out of them. I'm going to pound them on the back, and they're not going to go around doing this to people again. You with me? That's a very pure statement. When you have that, do you guys feel purity of awareness? When you have the purity of awareness, you will feel, then opens up to you true compassion, because you can experience the purity in other people, even in spite of, in light of their character. Purity of awareness doesn't mean you have a good character. Phew, thank God for that, huh? Purity of awareness doesn't mean you have a good character. Purity of awareness can help us have a good character because we start taking everything into this purity. A lot of us are afraid to bring anything into purity because we think we're going to contaminate the purity. Raise your hands if you've been afraid that you're going to contaminate the purity. Yes, great, an honest person. Yes. Or you just don't know how mean you are then.
Yeah.
Dissociation is a strange thing, isn't it? So you start bringing everything into this purity, and then the purity of awareness itself metabolizes it. You don't gain purity of mind by trying to change your mind, clean your mind up, or eat right. Eat right is good, but you're not going to... But purity of awareness purifies our mind, because every rotten thought we bring in, every disgusting experience we bring everything into the purity of awareness. If we have trouble holding the purity of awareness by ourselves, we hold it with another person. And that's what Winnicott meant by transitional space. He means sometimes it's hard to hold this awareness by yourself until you get really good at it. So that's why you have companions who you hold awareness with, and who, as they hold that with you, two awarenesses are better than one, it helps you metabolize stuff.
Would you say that this purity means genuineness rather than goodness?
Purity is not goodness.
Right.
Purity is not goodness.
Like this is pure leather.
No. Purity is awareness, which is openness, which is knowingness, which is spaciousness, which is sunyata. It is openness. True sunyata is not nihilistic emptiness. It is the purity of openness. That's why. And it does have a quality of innocence to it. But it's very, very... The Vajrakalaya, the destruction, comes out of the purity of awareness. Without you being in the purity of awareness, and without that, you would not see the purity of the person who you are undoing at that moment. If you only can undo a person because you just think they're a total piece of fucking shit, you are not in the purity of awareness. Fucking Trump, fucking piece of shit, you with me?
Yeah.
Then you are not in awareness at that moment. You're not. I'm not. I'm not. The purity of awareness is to see all the things that take place. And you can actually see that in people, huh? And you can feel that in people. Then out of that, the great compassion does arise very directly. Because you feel that purity in that person. And all this stuff that's taking place, right?
Difference between innocence and naivety.
There's a tremendous difference between innocence and naivete. A lot of people hide out in naivete, and they think that's purity. Blessed are the pure of heart, for they will see God. The Gnostics took that, and much of the Gnosticism, because purity is actually direct perception. You know? I mean, all this stuff we've been focusing a lot on the pure vision of the Lama, and I have papers written on that, and not giving any inch and that kind of stuff. But actually the pure vision of the Lama depends on your purity to see that person's purity, even though they're fucking up. Say yes if you understand this. I don't know if you have this. Do some of you have this? Then you can tolerate a lot of stuff in people. And without having purity of vision, you're not going to be able to tolerate a lot of stuff. I sound a little omnipotent at this moment, but learning to tolerate stuff, I don't tolerate much shit, I must tell you. In my life, it's a virtue I never got to, okay? However, as I discovered purity of awareness, I could still not tolerate stuff or take shit, but I could experience the purity more and more of the person who I am with. You follow what I mean by this? Say yes if you follow this.
Yes.
The purity of awareness will help you not be so sensitive. It's amazing. By having pure vision, it helps us overcome sissyhood. You with me? Everybody doing okay with this? Yes.
Brings up that indestructible.
It is indestructible. Yes.
When you're saying this, I'm thinking part of what happens if we can't tolerate, then we become more in the mind and judgmental. And
Yeah. Awareness is discriminating. Because let me help you here with this. Awareness itself, as I integrate my mind into awareness, then I actually can really have discrimination. Without being in awareness, much of my discrimination is prejudice, historical prejudice I've learned. It's a learned prejudice. As I bring my mind into this awareness, which is a real practice you have to do if you want to, then the light of awareness starts to infuse my mind, and then I start having discrimination. My judgmentalness is not discrimination. Then I start having discrimination. But that discrimination is actually born out of the purity of the resonance. And then there's a discrimination of what's good in this moment and what is really evil in this moment.
Yes.
And what's right in this moment and what's off in this moment. It'll be in this moment. It's not based on principles. This way of understanding is not principles. And what is good, what's the truth of this moment? Really hard. The truth of this. But being in awareness and feeling the field between myself and that person. If the field isn't between myself and that person, the right action will be very hard. If the field's between myself and this person, then the right action will arise out of the field. It can arise out of Nirmanakaya, it can arise out of Sambhogakaya, and it can rise out of the Dharmakaya. And then that action will have power, including defeating a person. This tradition is a tradition of warriorship, right? And it's a tradition of that it's not good to take abuse. A lot of traditions think it's good to take abuse. People take abuse from teachers, take abuse from people, and they think they're getting, and Muktananda would say, and also Dzogchen masters like Dorjim Lingpa, I've asked you to read his book, and you don't have to be a Buddhist to do this. You don't have to be a Dzogchen person. But I ask you to read things because it'll give you some experiences and you can feel this relief. And it's not good to take abuse. A lot of things, it's grace to take abuse from teachers. You with me? Every time you take abuse, it will start to influence your heart. And it starts to influence your heart. And it's really, really true. I always like to thank Chakapani also for what I learned just hanging out with him and what I learned from him. And it's always great to have friends who are teachers. It's great to have. It's also to see everybody as a teacher, but when you have a friend who's a teacher, I saw Muktananda as a teacher. To see different people as our teachers is really great, and friends as teachers, and not take shit, not take abuse. Some of us think that taking abuse is useful, and especially in spiritual contexts. You with me? And you think you should do no harm. That's a very tricky thing, doing no harm. You with me? Because the great compassion is also protection. And the great compassion is protection. And when people think the great compassion is not protection of innocence in people, then they can wish people well and keep moving.
I had a session with a client which kind of fits in with this.
Mm-hmm.
She was really struggling with something. We're about ready to finish up, and I don't know what to do. I'm just sitting there, but I'm really always connected. And I just went,
Yep. I feel better.
and she says, "Oh, it's gone." She walked out of the room.
Yes. Yes. So the purity of awareness metabolizes everything. And the purity of awareness has two components. One is the openness and the radiance. So the purity of awareness is radiance. And the very purity of awareness infuses our mind that we can see character. Without my mind, I'm not going to see character. Because of the union of my mind and awareness, I can see character in myself more. I can see character in situations, and I can see character in groups of situations. The seeing of character is because primordial awareness and my mind are in union, and I'm being able to see into situations. Later on, we'll be going further with this, and we'll be going into the different kayas and dimensions. But this is also Winnicottium, where he speaks about purity of space also. And this all came out of his own experience. And he also speaks about potential space. Potential space and purity are extremely close. The feeling of potential space and the purity. Sometimes we'll talk about them being different, but actually potential space of the Dharmakaya and potential space that comes into the mnemonic Sambhogakaya and potential space that's of this Mnemonikaya is actually in this dimension. It is felt as the purity of awareness. That's why the first manifestations of primordial awareness is purity. Is purity. And it can have this exquisitely innocent feeling, but you're very, very unbreakable,
Unbreakable, indestructible.
indestructible. So where is everybody at right now? Yes.
Today I received a different understanding of what gazing is. I've been thinking of it exclusively as visual. And of course it is visual. It can be. But today what I got about it is that gazing is actually the doorway into this pure place. And it could show up in the form of sound. It could show up in the form of silence, in the form of a goalless presence.
Yes.
It's a full commitment and presence. The gaze, and that's what I got about gazing today. Especially when you say gazing with the whole body, because my whole body is in vibration. If I'm present in a pure way, then I'm gazing, whether or not I'm looking with my eyes.
I had a friend who was very blind. In fact, they made a movie of his life, a Broadway movie, and his name was Al Krentz, and he was blind. He was he was a great attorney, and he was one of the greatest gazers I ever met. Because you could feel his gaze coming into you. He was a person, he lived in the field, Jewish guy from New York, he with me, had a serious illness as a baby, and he and I and his family were very, very close, and Pete would be at their house, the kids would be at our house, and he died unbelievably young. So it was not unlike Chakapani leaving for me, and he died in around 1985. And he would gaze, and you could feel this gaze coming through the body, and he would gaze, and he would know everything and anything, not with his third eye, but with that gaze. He would gaze with the embodied gaze, very embodied person, and very, very, and his intelligence was all brought into that gaze. Yes. I'm going to stay for a moment, staying in awareness. And then we'll be going next week again into the kayas again. And we all should be coming into expertise. I'm really happy because some of the people who are really coming into expertise. You with me? Expertise. Anybody else want to say anything about? Yes.
What comes to me as you're speaking about Winnicott
You're next, son.
the Bodhi mantra.
Mm-hmm. Says the whole thing, doesn't it?
The Bodhi mantra. The Bodhi mantra, when you speak about the actual text, it's about invoking the peaceful and wrathful ones. Not necessarily outside of oneself, but inside of oneself. And that purity has the quality of a wrathful nature, a fierce nature, as well as a beneficent bodhicitta nature.
Absolutely.
It's the combining or coming together of both of those qualities.
Also feminine and masculine nature simultaneously. Androgynous. And androgynous.
It's very...
Omahum bodhicitta masuka yanadatu. Ah. Yes.
I was going to say, two things happened. For me, one was the ongoing continuity of awareness.
Yes, son.
I felt in a different way
Mhm.
than ever before, and it felt very clear, very me, very private.
Private.
And then the thing that I was wondering about, but it certainly feels accurate to me is that for Winnicott, the ongoing continuity of being and I was trying to make the
Connection.
the connection to how Winnicott sees the beingness of being is that awareness, and that was the question I was going to ask. But it feels absolute, like yes.
Yes. He also had the phrase the true self and the false self. And the true self is the self, the private self, that inner private self that you experience. And then, which is ongoing continuity of being. And as you embody that, you start allowing it to come more forward in the world. You want to bring it into this world. But it is the true self. It is the authentic self. That's when Tom was talking about it. Yes, the authentic self is actually, and there's a Dzogchen text on the authentic self being the same thing. There's a lot of parallelism. The authentic self is the true self, which is the field of being manifesting in me as my own awareness. It's not just something way back there, transcendental. It's embodied coming through us.
And
Yes.
the other thing I wanted to say
Yes.
happened for me is the gazing in the direction of Baba Bhaktananda. It was as if Baba's energy towards me was tenfold anything else in the room,
Yes.
in a completely illogical way.
Yes. What is so cool, then we start entering into an iconic world. So in a certain way, it's an iconic world. And so human beings are iconic. Art is iconic. So everything is doorways. I remember one time, for a long time, I would just dream of doorways. And I'd see these dreams, doorways, doorways. What is all this doorway stuff? Doorways and doorways. Then eventually, everything is doorways. There are veils. There's a veil. But you open up doors and doors and doors. And then it comes. So all these things, that's supporting. You know, we tried the room with less drama in it. We want to have let's just see what happens if we took all this stuff out. And you know, it didn't quite have the same drama. So we put everything back in again, huh? Somebody else, yes.
I had a client yesterday who was in touch with, he was talking about her as Lily, and I said, I think she's Lilith.
Yes, yes.
And so we looked up a little bit about Lilith,
Uh-huh.
but
Mhm.
the goddess, I mean, what a phenomenal rejection by that whole natural, wild,
Yes.
feminine energy that was not going to be subjugated
Yes.
by anyone. And what a beautiful power that is to take us into that non-discriminatory place of,
Yeah.
I'm going to eat whatever I
Yeah,
want to eat.
yeah.
I'm going to suck that blood. And
Yes.
I'm going to do, but I'm present and I'm,
Yes.
So.
Yes. So we're moving forward. You with me? And you can feel the individuation that's taking place more and more in our society, and the balancing out and the slow demise of patriarchalness. Not the demise of leadership, but the demise of the patriarchalness and the demise of theocentricness, which we've always been here. Most of the teachers have come here, for the most part. Those who've been here for too many years have been very individualistic people. You with me? They're all like Lama Wander, all great lamas and teachers and things, but most of them have been very much individualistic people. They don't necessarily, they don't worry about their institutionalism. They're uninstitutionalized. Chakapani was also an uninstitutionalized person, you know? And institutionalization always has difficulty with such people. Because many people, they might be great teachers, their primary connection is to the institutionalization. They think that the institutionalization is the tradition. There's a great book by, not Masood Khan, another person talks about this, but Merleau-Ponty on institutionalization and passivity. So there's a certain way Dzogchen, and you'll see this explicitly in this great book of life, and it's how it tries to deconstruct the institutionalization of human beings. You follow me? And I remember one time, for some reason, Chakapani's on my mind a lot today, when he would come, he's a very independent person. He was perhaps Muktananda's closest friend. I'd be with Chak, and with Chakapani and Baba would ring, and these were great, interesting times. So after Baba dies and Chakapani leaves and starts doing his creating things. But one time, I remember there's a story, You can take it for what it's worth, but in terms of so one time we're here, and it's a Shiva Archery. There's an interesting story. It's Shiva Archery, and Shiva Archery is the day of Shiva. It's a very important day. It's not unlike that when Ma was doing that Shiva, and many ways. Ma was also friends of other Siddha masters, and he carried the Siddha lineage with, and not Ma, but Chakapani carried that. And so anyway, it's Shiva Archery. We have about 100 people here. We were never an official center, but we'd have a lot of people down here in Mujum. And I get a phone call from the Siddha Yoga meditation thing, okay? And a person I knew actually was here, and then he was now one of the leaders there. And he says, you can close your eyes. He says, I have to talk to you. I said, yes, well, I said, it's a Shiva Arati, the day of Shiva. I have 100 people downstairs. It's now 7 o'clock. I cannot talk. He says, it's perfect. This is Shiva Arati. I have to say this to you today. And he says, I said, well, what is it? And he says, Chakapani is not a friend of Siddha Yoga. Chakapani is not a friend of Siddha Yoga.
Wow.
And you should not have him there. I said, oh my God, Steve, something's happening right now. He said, well, what is it? Shiva's talking to me, and he's sending me a message. To you. What is it? Steve, fuck you. Sagrana Maharaj Ki Jai. With that, we'll end our session today. I have others.
I don't think I've heard that one.
That's good.
I don't think I've heard that. Yeah.
No, real thing. And so, he was saying how he moved to Chuck Honey was here to talk. And then someone from City Yoga called him. Yeah, who was that? He said Steve's. I think that's Steve rides the motorcycle that he used to be friends with. Remember they did
Not
engineer
Steve
shit?
Byrne.
No.
Okay. He called and said, Chakapani's not a
He
friend.
didn't say the name, but he did say, he did say Steve.
Right,
So.
and then, so Rudy said, he said back to him, fuck you.
Right,
When
exactly.
the guy said Chakapani wasn't a friend.
And you shouldn't be there.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. Yeah. Come on. Now I understand, thank you.
Say this too. Someone says, am I fine? Let me say this to you. Hey guys, folks, people keep asking, am I fine? Am I sad? I'm sad. But sad and fine are not incongruous at all. Because when you participate with a friend who's a great yogi, as that door opens, it also opens for you. Right? And then all that, there's this particular grace of transition. So that energy just keeps coming to you. And it's not coming to you aside from the person. It's not Yama, the god of death, giving you this. It is actually through that human being's grace as they go into the transcend, as they move into transition, then that light comes for everybody. And that's really, really cool. That's why thank you guys. See you later. Hasta la vista.
Even cats. Not even, especially. Especially.
Yeah, I think she'll be back.
Exactly, Catherine.
I know. Have you been to India? Yeah. I've not been, so. Thank you guys. Yeah. Oh, did you go to the north or south or?
This morning, how was it, Kathy?
My son is going, actually.
Yeah, well, for a month.
December 22nd through January 22nd. So
Thank you guys. Hi, colleagues. Had a good time.
So,
Thank
yeah,
you guys.
he's going to Varanasi
everybody.
and he's going to kind of do the north. Bulgaria.
You want me to turn it off?
No, we're just,
Yeah. Someday, me too. Me too. He's blazing the trail for me. I'm excited.
I felt like a bit of a pull to go with this. It's just with my family situation. That stays with me forever.
Right,
And
right,
I
yeah.
feel like going back. Your words are especially going to resonate.
No, I
Let them know.
understand. It wasn't the right moment for me either.
Yeah.
Yeah.